So dash cams can be a great idea, whether that's giving you evidence if you ever have a crash, or if it's for capturing and sharing some of your rides. Now, Innovv are pretty much the gold standard when it comes to motorcycle specific dash cams, and thankfully they've sent me their K3 system for review, as well as sponsoring this video so I can tell you all about it. Now, of course, I've got loads of GoPros and recording equipment specifically for on the bike, but the K3 has loads of impressive features and benefits, and all at a super competitive price point. So today I'm going to show you how to install it. I'll tell you about everything it can do, I'll show you some riding footage, and then I'll give you plenty of reasons to consider buying one. But first, the install.
In the box, you get 2 cameras, a recording unit, a power converter, a remote, a GPS module, an external microphone, and plenty of mounts. To be honest, especially on a smaller bike like my Trident, you'll spend most of your time figuring out where to place the cameras. You want a good view from the camera, of course, but also somewhere that looks neat on the bike. I settle with a sticky pad on the brake reservoir at the front and some zip ties onto the subframe at the rear, but I'll see how I go and maybe find something a little stealthier in future. Now, in the box, Innovv do provide plenty of robust brackets and top quality mounts, so I'd recommend checking out their install videos, as well as Bruce over at Teapot One for some inspiration on other mounting options. In order to run the cables neatly to the bars for the front camera and the remote, I had to pop the tank off and tuck them in with some of the other cabling on the bike. The rear camera, on the other hand, was pretty easy given that you can just run the cable behind a side panel. The main DVR box conveniently slid under the battery strap. As for the GPS module and mic, you'll need to find a decent external mounting point for the GPS so that it can get a good reliable signal, but with the mic you've got a few options. Under the saddle will limit wind noise and give you some decent sound from the exhaust, but if you wanted to vlog with it, you could potentially clip it to yourself or run it inside your helmet. But once I had everything roughly in place, I connected all the cables together, attached the power converter to the battery, and spliced the yellow wire into the brake light. Now, this means that the system will only take power when the ignition is on, otherwise it'd drain the battery pretty quick. There's not a great deal of space on the Trident under the saddle, so again, some more time spent neatening up the cables with zip ties would be good, but on a bigger adventure or touring bike, there should be plenty more space, which would make this process easier. Once you've got everything hooked up, you should see a light on the remote when you switch the ignition on. Now, this also shows any faults, and there's a troubleshooting section in the manual. I forgot to insert a memory card, for example, but it was super quick to diagnose. You then download the Innovv app, connect to the Wi-Fi signal from the DVR, and that's pretty much it. There are a bunch of settings in the app, so it's worth spending some time getting familiar with them, but overall I was impressed with how simple the setup was. The main things to take your time with are the camera placement, cable routing, and also figuring out where to splice the converter in, but otherwise it's nice and easy. There's a really good full 30-minute install video on the Innovv website should you need it, so I'll link to that in the description.
So after I installed it, I pretty much immediately took the bike for a spin just to check it out, and I really liked how integrated and sleek this system is. The remote, if you get the placement right, feels like an extension of the switchgear, and it just feels very clean and easy to use. The quality of the footage as well, you know, it's pretty good, especially considering the price point. You know, I wouldn't say it was right up there with something like the GoPro Hero 9. The stabilization on that camera is always going to be hard to beat, but here's the thing. Each of those GoPro Hero 9s is about 380 quid. I also got the wide max lens mod for each camera, and that's another 80 quid each. And then an external sound recorder and microphone. You know, all in for my on-the-bike setup were already over £1,000. But the K3, and remember we've got a forward and rear facing camera, comes in at just under 300 quid. So it's a super affordable option if you want to protect your bike or capture your rides. But it's not just the price, here are plenty of other reasons why I like this system.
Now, GoPros do have a loop mode like the Innovv, which constantly captures without filling the memory card, but you still have to remember to power up and press record when you start your ride. The K3, on the other hand, just starts recording as soon as you switch the bike on. Be it for insurance purposes or for capturing those unexpected moments on the road, you'll never miss out on the action. Every time I put a GoPro on my chest or helmet, I have to check that the angle is right. Mounts can get moved when you take your helmet or chest mount off, and I've ended up with plenty of footage of too much sky or too much of the bike. The Innovv system is always going to look the same though, so you can just hop on and not have to worry about framing. The same could be said for the power. After nearly every ride I have to charge my GoPros, and occasionally I forget, which is really frustrating when I go out to shoot something only to be faced with a dead camera. having the Innovv wired into the battery means that you never have this problem. The K3 also has a G sensor built in, which means that it'll save a separate file when significant motion is detected, such as a crash. That footage will never get overwritten, and it even has a parking mode. So if someone drives into your bike when it's parked on the street, you'll have a clip of the incident and hopefully their number plate even if they drive off. This has happened to me in the past, resulting in a bent fork, and I do wish that I'd had an Innovv installed to catch the culprit's details. There are a couple of features that I'm really impressed with at this price. The remote, for example, can be used to save specific clips, to take photos, and even to perform a reset in case you get an error whilst on the move. The GoPro remote, on the other hand, is another 80 quid. The K3's external mic with a lengthy cable means that you have a lot of flexibility in terms of finding the best spot for some good quality audio. The media mod for the GoPro Hero 9 though, which you need for an external mic, is yet another 80 quid. And this is all in a super sleek system. Because the DVR is hidden away under the saddle, the cameras themselves are actually pretty small and discreet. So this is a great way to have a highly functional dashcam installed without ruining the aesthetic of your bike. The Hero 9 that we've just mentioned is significantly bigger and looks pretty large mounted on the bars. And last up, the K3 seems like a great tool for track days. Recording your sessions can be really useful for learning where to improve, but the days can be quite long, so battery life could be a concern with a regular action cam. On top of that, cameras usually have to be mounted on the bike, not your body, and you must use secure mounts that attach the camera with two methods in case one fails. Scrutineers can be pretty strict about this stuff, so a permanently installed system like the Innovv with the good quality mounts included might make this process a little easier. So all in all, I think the K3 delivers great value for money with what feels like a really nicely made piece of kit. As a full-time YouTuber, I'll always have to use specialist gear for capturing my content, but for the amateur or beginner, this would be a really cost-effective way to get started. But predominantly, this is a brilliant dashcam system that's always recording, and for me, that's its core purpose that it fulfills exceptionally well.
So a massive thanks to Innovv for sending the K3 out for review and also for supporting the channel by sponsoring this video. There's a link in the description to the K3 product page, so do check it out if you're at all interested. And if you've got any questions about it, please do leave them in the comments below and I'll do my very best to get back to you.